going on, guys? Been a second since I've done a How I Mixed episode, and I thought I would come on back with the brand new Rob Scallon video for Sitar Metal. And this was kind of interesting because it's kind of similar to the banjo as far as mixing and audio goes, but I thought it would be kind of a cool thing to see how to mix sitar in a metal mix with lots of reaching double kick and metal drums, because you never know when you're going to run into that kind of a thing, I guess. Anyway, I'm in Logic Pro X, and these are the tracks. Now I have these grouped. Rob mic'd the sitar because obviously a sitar does not have any kind of piezo pickup or anything like that. So he had two microphones. He had one on the neck section and one on the body section. The neck captured all the high end, and the body microphone captured all of the body, or what body there is. And so these are grouped left and right within what I called the rhythm sitars. And I had to phase them, which basically meant just using my ear and nudging one and coming up with a right amount of nudges, and then deciding on that, and then moving on and doing the same with the next pair of microphones. So here's how the track sounds with the bass drums, full tilt boogie. I'm going to take away the plugins, and then we're going to just kind of check out what I did to get everything kind of level and get everything kind of popping. So, Sitar Metal. So we're going to start with the drums. Now the drums is just an Easy Drummer preset that I've kind of used some outside post-processing to make things kind of pop where they need to, but the basic drum set is just the stock Easy Drummer 2 modern kit that I've replaced some shells with. And I've used a couple of EQs and a multiband compressor on the kick. For the snare, I've used the Shep 73 waves, and then come in with some JST clip and some compression for the drums, or for the toms rather. And the drums sound like this. All right, those are the drums. For the bass, I did a ton of processing because this is a similar processing to what I'm doing for the Rest Repose record coming out soon. And Rob's Schecter bass has a giant humbucker, and the DI is very robust, as you can see. This is the DI, and it's a very powerful one. What I did on the bass guitar is I have two DIs. One, I added an amp sim built into Logic, which is just basically a Mesa Boogie amp. I then came in with Easy Mix, added some dirt, and then on each track, I cut out more of the low end on the amp track, and then on the DI track, I kind of cut out more of the high end. Now, I did what sounded best. Normally you would cut out a lot more of each of these. So normally you would be left with the high end on the amp track, with just a little mound of mid-range kind of left. But this sounded better, and you always go with what sounds better. So this is the DI track right here, and this is the amp track. And I've blended them together, and they're being bussed to the same bus for bass. And I started out with an EQ again, carving out a lot of the mid-range. I'm gonna come in with Slate Virtual Mix Rack, a little bit of EQ, a little bit of compression. It's actually quite a bit of compression. And then I'm coming in with the limiter and I'm just crushing it. The reason why I want to do this is because I want the bass to be a laser, especially for something as dynamic as a sitar. I mean, you have to have some kind of levelness and a sonic anchor, and that was, for me, it was the bass. So I have the bass soloed. Here's how it sounds. Okay, so after the limiter, I have some multi-band compression going on. And then I have the Waves CLA bass. And then I kind of frequency swept and kind of cleaned up some stray kind of peaky frequencies with the Waves Q10. And then I came in again with the limiter, not super aggressive this time. It's just barely kind of clipping the ends there, and that's what I want. And that's the bass guitar. So now onto the actual sitar tracks. I'm gonna turn these off, and here's how the track sounds with the sitars unprocessed. Okay, so you'll notice I have a tiny bit of reverb being bussed out. That's just to add a little bit more depth and a little bit more clarity and kind of just room, because there's not a lot of sonic room with the sitar, because like the banjo, it's just all attack. So I have the 4 tracks here, and I have, on each track, I have the virtual mix rack, and I have the virtual channel, the VCC channel, with a Neve to warm it up, because what I want to do is warm it up and kind of take away some of the attack. So first I'm going to come in with the limiter. This is because the sitar is just so dynamic. Now, it's not, the limiter itself isn't doing a whole lot, but it is kind of pre-leveling going into the compressor that you'll see here right now. So after the limiter, I'm going right in to the VCC channel for the Neve. This is the summing part of what I just showed you on the individual tracks. Coming in with the FGN, and I'm taking away a lot of high end, about 5 dB at 12 kilohertz. Of just chopping down that high end. I'm also adding a ton of low end. So I'm gonna switch this on and off, and I'm gonna play the track, and you'll see how, you'll hear the EQ come in. Kind of making it more in your face and much more present. And then lastly, I came in with the Waves Q10 to clean up some nasty high-end frequencies that I was hearing that were peaking all over the place, and just kind of smearing everything in the high end. So that is how you mix Sitar Metal. Now these other tracks are just some auxiliary tracks and the solo, and I basically processed them all the same with varying degrees of compression and reverb, but I used what I just showed you on the main guitars as a blueprint for the rest of the sitar tracks. And I basically just blended them coming in. Now on the solo, these two tracks are a single track, and I have them panned center, and I'm using a JST side widener to kind of split the image and make it wide while maintaining that center channel. So I'm gonna play it with and without. So as you can see, the JST side widener really kind of gives it a depth and a body of what would otherwise be a very thin sounding single track going right down the center. And these kinds of situations is really, really helpful. You can also do this with guitar solos as well. If you don't want a double track, but you want that kind of double tracked width, but you want the tightness of a single track, this is a good trick to do as well. And lastly, with the rhythm sitars, because Rob's playing becomes more open at the break, which is actually louder than his palm muting at the very beginning, actually came in and automated the volume depending on which part was being played, just so you could further get that levelness to kind of match and ride the bass as well. There's no automation on the bass at all, but I chose to automate the sitars instead because I knew the bass was coming out level, and it's constant with the drums. So that way, if you you can use automation to kind of finally fine-tune the volume of any given instrument, bass, guitar, and in this case, a sitar. So there you go. That is how I mixed Sitar Metal, Rob Scallon. You can see the original video down below in this description. You've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.